Okay, good morning everyone. I'm just going to briefly read through a housekeeping note. Please note that this meeting is being broadcast live on the Council's website via YouTube, and it will remain available for a minimum of 12 months. I would remind those in attendance to please use your microphones when speaking, but do remember to switch them off once you have finished. If you could also switch any mobiles or laptops to a silent setting for the duration of the meeting. If the fire alarms ring, please can everyone leave the room immediately and use the nearest fire exit, but do not use the lift. Please go to the fire assembly point, which is located at the bottom of the car park by the garages. Thank you very much. Item 1, the election of chairman. Please may I have nominations for the election of chairman?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Steve. Sorry.
Happy to second it. Happy to second it. Okay, good morning everyone. Just for my colleagues on the right, my name is Councillor Steve Clark and I represent Milton Ward. The other two members of the panel sitting to my right are
Councillor Glass of Holbury.
sorry,
Councillor Glass, my ward is Hardley, Holbury and North Blackfield.
yeah, this will take a while. Councillor Nigel Linford, Bransbourne, Burley, Sopley and Ringwood East. It's always much easier just to say Milton Ward. Okay, sitting in front of me is the legal advisor, Richard Davies. On my far left is the Democratic Services Officer, Joe Tyler. And sat opposite me down there, and they've swapped around this week to confuse me, are officers from the New Forest District Council's licensing department, Gemma Devine, and who's the licensing manager, and Peter Donnellan, the licensing and compliance officer. This is a hearing to consider the grant of a premises licence at the site of Bewley Road, Dibden, Purlew. The application has been submitted by JD Wetherspoons PLC. Firstly, I need to ensure that neither I nor any of my colleagues sitting today have a personal pecuniary interest in this matter, which would preclude us from sitting to determine the application. I do not. I do not.
I've used the pub as it used to be, but I don't consider that to be any influence on the future use.
Okay, thank you. That's just for the purposes of transparency. Okay, we now check the parties to the hearing. We have representatives from JD Wetherspoons PLC acting on behalf of the applicant. So Mr. Nigel O'Connor and Mr. Chris Escott.
That's correct, Mr. Connor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And obviously Chris Escott there. Thank you. And we also have the two ward councillors here, as well as several residents. So welcome to the meeting of Councillor Wade and Councillor Osborne, who both represent Dibden and Dibden Purlew. There's a double Dibden who got me there. We're expecting a Mr. Chris Loader. I believe he's not here just at the moment.
He's not.
Thank you for that update. Thank you. In which case, Mr. Endlesby and Mr. and Mrs. Clifford. Okay, thank you. For the purposes of the hearing, these will be grouped together as objectors. If I can now ask Democratic Services that every party who notified the council are present.
That's correct, Chairman, with the absentee of Mr. Loader that we've just heard. Everyone else is here and present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There were a great number of other objections received, and obviously with the fact that Mr. Loader is unwell this morning, in the absence of those parties, myself and colleagues have to decide whether to proceed today and whether we adjourn. All the points made in writing, all the objections that are contained within the pack have all been noted and read by ourselves. As such, I believe it is in the public interest that we proceed to hear the matter today. Does the subcommittee agree? Yeah, happy to proceed, Chair. Thank you.
Agreed.
I now wish to establish the order of events for this hearing. You will have received a copy of the Council's hearing procedure guidance. Our legal officer will start by clarifying the reasons for the hearing today. Then our licensing manager will introduce the report and will summarise the application. The applicant will then present their case first. After that, the objectors, including ward councillors and the subcommittee, will have an opportunity to ask relevant and appropriate questions of the applicant. And I must stress that the only questions will be allowed at that point. In other words, no statements or comments will be allowed. After that, the objectors will be able to make comments, and I will call upon the objectors in the order in which they were introduced. After each objector has made their statements, the applicant and the subcommittee will then have an opportunity to ask questions of the objector. Once each group has had the chance to make their case and to respond to any questions, we will allow each to sum up. First, the applicant will sum up the case, followed by the objectors. Once the summaries are complete, the hearing will close to enable the subcommittee to determine the application in private. Can I ask that all parties are in agreement with the procedure for the hearing? We will send out the formal decision notice in writing to all parties within 5 working days from this hearing. Can I now ask Richard to clarify the reasons for the hearing and make any necessary comments?
Thank you, Chairman. JD Wetherspoon plc has submitted an application for a premises licence under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003, in accordance with Section 18 of the Licensing Act, where relevant representations have been made to the licensing authority. In response to a premises licence application, the licensing authority must hold a hearing to consider them. Having regard to those relevant representations, the licensing authority may take such steps as it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. These steps are outlined for the subcommittee and the parties in the report at page 7 of the pack, paragraphs 21 to 23. The report outlines for the parties that representations received by the licensing authority raise issues relating to noise, particularly at night, crime and disorder and public safety. I will remind the subcommittee and the parties that the application to be determined today relates to the licensable activities applied for only, and the impact of those licensable activities on the 4 licensing objectives, which are set out in the report at page 6 of the pack, at paragraph 20. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Can I now invite Gemma Devine, the licensing manager, to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chairman. The Licensing Authority has received an application for the grant of a premises licence at Wetherspoons, Bewley Road, at the site previously known as The Heath. Please note there is a minor error in the written report on page 5 where there are references to it being a variation application, but I can confirm that this is a grant application for a new licence at this premises. The application seeks the following: the sale and supply of alcohol, both on and off sales, from Sunday to Wednesday, 8 AM to 30 minutes past midnight on the following day, and Thursday to Saturday, 8 AM until 100 hours on the following day, with some seasonal variations. It also seeks late night refreshment, both indoors and outdoors, from 2300 hours until the terminal hour for the sale of alcohol on each of those days. And opening hours for members of the public, Sunday to Wednesday of 7 AM to 1 AM the following day, and Thursday to Saturday, 7 AM to 1:30 the following day, with seasonal variations. A full copy of the application can be found starting at page 27 of your pack. The application is brought before members to determine, as we have received 46 representations, 1 in support and 43 in opposition from members of the public, with 2 district councillors, who are in attendance today, representing the views of their constituents more broadly. Objections, as you have heard, are primarily linked to the prevention of public nuisance and the prevention of crime and disorder licensing objectives, though there are some additional matters raised outside of these areas. And copies of objections can be found in Appendix 5, which starts on page 51 of your pack. There have been no prior complaints made to the NFDC licensing or to environmental protection teams. relating to this premises which engaged the Licensing Act 2003. There was one noise complaint made last year relating to fans, which was resolved by the Environmental Protection team. However, the premises have not yet begun operating under new ownership, so this relates to the previous iteration of the licence. The options open to members now are to grant the application as applied for with no further changes, to grant the application in part or in full and add further conditions or limit the hours of operation or licensable activities that are being considered within this application only, or to refuse the application as applied for in full. Photographs of the premises, which are currently under redevelopment, and the immediate surroundings can be found in Appendix 4 of the report, which is found on page 47 of your report. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just ask you to clarify, there is a current licence in place and the timings of that licence?
Yes. The existing premises licence permits the following: the sale or supply of alcohol on and off the premises from Monday to Sunday 10 a.m. to 30 minutes past midnight the following day on each of those days, the provision of late night refreshment from 2300 hours until 30 minutes past midnight, so that's the same as the sale of alcohol, and opening hours are 24/7 because it's currently operating as both a hotel and a licensed premises. So there are certain parts of it which are open just to residents.
Okay, thank you. And that licence would remain in force whatever the outcome, subject to the outcome of today? Subject
to the outcome. I'm sure, as can be confirmed by the representation for the applicant, an indication has been made that if a satisfactory determination comes to this hearing, that existing premises licence will be surrendered, but no surrender is in place at this time.
Thank you. I know it says within the report, I can't remember which page, that everybody is involved has been informed of those hours, but I felt it necessary to highlight the current conditions that apply at this time. Thank you. Can I now invite the applicant to state the case, and I'll go to Mr. Connor.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you very much indeed. I'm Mr. Connor. I'm the company's legal director and a solicitor. I've got Mr. Hescott on my right-hand side, who's the area manager for the premises. Currently, he's the area manager for premises in the Southampton area, and this premises will fall under his purview. I'll outline the application, Chair, how it addresses the licensing objectives, and then, of course, if you have any questions, happy to answer them with the assistance of Mr. Hescott, who is the operational expert in terms of how the premises will operate. The application is as set out by your licensing officer, Chair. I confirm that the name of the premises will be retained. We'll be continuing to call it the Heath Hotel. It's been there, I think, since the 1920s and very much want to carry on that tradition. Premises was acquired by JD Wetherspoon from Whitbread in June of this year. They're divesting all of their food and drink operations to concentrate on their hotel operation, Premier Inn. As you've heard, the premises does have the benefit of a premises licence, which has been transferred into the company's name, and that's set out in the agenda pack. Your licensing officer has given you some of the key elements of that licence. It does provide for regulated entertainment. It does allow for 24-hour opening and allows sale of alcohol to midnight every day of the week, with an additional 30 minutes drinking up time so customers can leave. The proposed new licence doesn't provide for any regulated entertainment. As you may be aware, the vast majority of Wetherspoon premises don't operate with any music whatsoever, even background, and that will be the case here. We applied for sale of alcohol to midnight Sunday to Wednesday as per the existing licence, but also 1 o'clock Thursday to Saturday, which was 30 minutes more than the existing licence. We've also applied for an 8 o'clock start time for the sale of alcohol, which will be when the premises opens in any event. explain to the residents who've been in attendance this morning already, Chair, that we've noted their concerns in terms of those later hours, and therefore we'll be happy to amend the application today so that we only seek sale of alcohol to midnight every day of the week, which is as per the existing licence, so it matches the existing licence. So no extension of hours effectively in the evening is now sought. There is an existing premises licence in place, and we'll be happy to surrender that licence subject to the satisfactory grant of a new licence today. But that existing licence does allow us to open and trade effectively, regardless of any decision today. But we thought it would be helpful effectively to apply for a new licence to reflect the fact that we're not having any regulated entertainment, and it will be a different style of operation, and obviously to reflect the new layout of the premises. Chair, in respect of the company, we've been operating pubs since 1979. We've just got under 800 premises in the UK, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. We've recently opened some premises in Spain as well, so very much looking forward to branching out. We have a very strong traditional presence in the Southampton and surrounding areas. The nearest pub, as the crow flies, would be in Southampton, but the nearest to travel to would be our premises in Lymington, and the manager from Lymington will be the manager of this pub when it opens, so bringing some relatively local experience to the site. During the 47 years now we've been operating pubs, we've been at the forefront of several developments in the industry, increased provision of food, opening up pubs to families, pubs serving breakfast, etc. And these are still characteristics of all our pubs, and will be a characteristic of this pub as well. Chair, I don't know how familiar you are with the site, but it's a well-established licensed premises. It's got 3 stories. The main customer area will be on the ground floor, along with the bar servery, the kitchen, the toilet provision and all ancillaries, the back of house facilities. The second floor and the third floor are staff accommodation and our staff room. There isn't any intention to operate it as a hotel, and I don't know whether or not it was actually operated as a hotel before it closed. Mr. Hescott thinks not, but our residents may. Nodding their heads as well, but that was my understanding. It's not operated as a hotel for a number of years. So those rooms on the second and third floor will be used for staff accommodation and a staff room. Main entrance is at the front of the premises. It's a lobbied entrance from the main car park. There's an external terrace to the front and side of the premises, and there's a small garden area to the right-hand side at the rear as you look at the pub from the entrance. There'll be full digital CCTV coverage throughout, both inside and outside the premises. Extensive customer seating, as you'll see from the plan lodged with the application, Chair, to facilitate dining, which will be a key focus of this pub given its location. There isn't any intention to remove any seating to facilitate vertical drinking. It simply won't be that type of premises. We've not made any significant internal alterations to the pub. The layout is very much as it was, but we have substantially refurbished it. We're spending in the region of £1.5 million on just rejuvenating the pub and bringing it back to its previous standards, which hopefully will make it a popular premises for people to visit. It's a traditional JD Wetherspoon. As I've said, there's no music or any regulated entertainment being provided, no disco, no karaoke, and there's no provision on the licence for that. We have very heavy emphasis on food in this premises. We operate a breakfast menu from opening until noon and a full menu from 11:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. every night. We don't operate a curtailed menu at all. That's the full menu which is on offer, and that's the menu which is on offer in all our pubs. Food sales for the company are becoming increasingly crucial. Higher percentage of food sales year on year contributing to our trade. Recent new openings, we've had food sales of 50%, and when you tie in the alcohol sales with those food sales, it's about 70% linked to food. This pub, I think, because of its location, those food sales will be higher. It's not in a traditional Wetherspoons town centre or city centre location, so I think people will be using it as a destination venue, as we would say in the trade, where people come from further afield to use the pub. But as well, we want it to be attractive to people in the immediate locality as well, our neighbours and people who live in the surrounding village. There's a children's menu on offer at all times. We have particular offers on different nights. We have a burger night on Tuesday, pizza night on Wednesday, curry club on Thursday. It's family friendly. Children will be welcome at all times with adult supervision. Tea or coffee as well will be available. We offer free refills throughout the time that we open for trade. There won't be any happy hours or time-led promotions in common with all our pubs. All of our promotions in general are tied in with food. For example, if you order a main meal, you can get a drink, either alcoholic or non-alcoholic. So there isn't anything which compels customers to drink quicker than they would to take advantage of a timed alcohol offer. The result of that offer is that we have a very broad customer base. Chair, it's very crucial to what we do. We don't appeal to any particular demographic, if I can call it that. We don't attract a particular type of clientele or age group. It's really something for everybody at all times of the day. Obviously, our pricing is competitive. We're well known for that. But from our perspective, that means that there isn't any barrier really for people who want to come and use us. A lot of pubs are very expensive now, and we try and pitch ourselves at a level whereby people want to come to a pub. They're not put off by price. Obviously, Chair, I've read all the representations from the interested parties, as has Mr. Hescott. What I would say as an overriding point, the company's been operating licensed premises in very much the same format as proposed here for about 45 years. So we've got a great deal of experience to bring to bear to ensure that some of the concerns raised do not arise. In terms of the hours, noted the concerns raised and we trimmed the application to the existing premises licence. I suspect that a lot of the local residents have thought that we are applying for an extension of the hours on the licence, which we were to an extent, greater than they perhaps envisaged because of the fact that the Heath Hotel closed earlier and therefore there was a feeling that the licence only allowed them to operate up to that time. In terms of how we want to operate, we would initially want to operate up to the full extent of any licence granted, but as I explained to our neighbours earlier, that's very much exploratory. It's a new site for us. It may be appropriate to close earlier if there isn't the level of trade, but we want to be able to make that decision ourselves based upon trading it and seeing how we go. Obviously, there's a lot to balance in terms of commerciality of trading later, but also, as I've explained, balancing our obligations to our neighbours as well. But really what we want is the opportunity to be able to do that. There's no police representation, Chair, or EHR representation in respect of the application, nor from any of the other responsible authorities, and I ask you to give appropriate weight to that. What I would say, in common with most pubs, is the days where pubs used to kick out people, in large numbers at closing time of sadly long gone. We are rarely at peak capacity at close. The majority of food trade at this pub will be based on food, and I would imagine that that will tail away from 9:30 to 10 o'clock, and thereafter there'll be a more gradual drift away of customers, which reduces the risk of large impacts of noise at close. You've got people just drifting away gradually, but nonetheless, we do obviously pay our rates for the full 24 hours. We pay our bills for the full 24 hours. So we do want to try and maximise the time that we are open as much as possible, taking into account the concerns of the neighbours. As I've said, there's no entertainment of any sort which will be provided. We do hope the premises will be used by local people from the area will travel on foot. Those coming from further afield, there is a large car parking provision at the premises, probably estimated this morning when I was there in the region of 35 to 40 car parking spaces. In respect of concerns expressed by the local residents as to vandalism, antisocial behaviour, drunken behaviour, etc. It's not something that I would recognise as being associated with a Wetherspoon pub. We're a well-run and well-managed operation with good relationships with our neighbours and the responsible authorities, and we bring a considerable experience to bear in how we operate our pubs. Mr Hescott, for example, will contact the police licensing officer on a monthly basis to see if there are any concerns, and if concerns are raised on that call or outside that call, then they are dealt with very promptly. And that will be the same in respect of any concerns raised with our neighbours. Mr Hescott did have a meeting with the management and some of the residents of the Heathlands residential home to the rear of the premises. And what we would like to do is offer a similar meeting to our local neighbours, perhaps after we've been open for 4 weeks, to have any issues addressed. Obviously, if there are any issues addressed in the interim, then we would deal with those very quickly in terms of noise from deliveries, etc., operation of the beer garden. So we are very receptive to concerns expressed locally. Obviously, if you do operate licensed premises, Chair, you do have a responsibility of promoting the licensing objectives and adhering to the law. We fully accept that responsibility. We've got a wide range of long-established management policies and processes in place at our pubs to stop the issues the residents fear happening. What I always say in these hearings is that well-managed customers on a pub behave better off it, and that's really crucial to our approach. There's signage asking customers to leave the area quietly. There'll be signage in the beer garden asking our customers to respect our neighbours. We operate what's called a Challenge 21 policy to prevent anybody under the age of 18 being served alcohol. So if you're lucky enough to look 20 or 21, our staff will challenge you to provide identification to prove that you're over 18. We have a don't drunk policy to prevent overconsumption by customers, and all these policies are trained in at every level by members of staff who join us. We have incident reporting electronically, which means that any incident which occurs at the premises is reviewed at head office. It goes to the management board of the company, the directors of the company on a daily basis every morning, so we can see if there are any problems at the pub and deal with those problems as and when they arrive. We participate in Pub Watch, we participate in the Ask for Angela scheme, and we certainly commit to work with our neighbours in respect of addressing any issues which might arise. That, Chair, was my opening submission in respect of the application. I'm here to answer any questions you might have, as is Mr Hescott. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to the objectors now. Just a reminder that this is questions only. At this stage, I'll go to the councillors first. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think they've just answered quite a lot of our questions we were going to ask. So I'd like to just elaborate on the communication that you offered and the offer of probably being able to communicate with the area manager for the residents and ourselves. You know, not Facebook, please, but, you know, an email would be great if we know that facility is there, so we can discuss if things aren't going right. I think that's a good question to put on your list, if that can be facilitated.
Okay, good. We'll do one question at a time.
Yes, of course. That's not a problem. We can supply you with the pub's email address, telephone number. I have a regular meeting with the pub manager every single week where we would have a wash up on general day-to-day, what's happened, what's going on. We can go through those things. And as Nigel mentioned, we can arrange a residents meeting for 4 to 6 weeks after we've opened. Once things have kind of settled down, we'll invite you into the pub, an hour, a couple of hours. We'll set aside a quiet area and you can have kind of an open forum, a discussion with myself, the pub manager and the rest of the team. If you do have any concerns, we accept all feedback, whether positive or negative. We want to grow and be part of the community in Dibden Purley.
Next question.
Yes, I think that sounds good as long as the email isn't just going off to some head office that gets lost. You know, we'd like a bit more personal thing in our area. Are you aware that we do have poor lighting and poor footpaths in this location? Our lighting often goes out completely at midnight, and I hope that's taken into consideration with the closing hours. Obviously, we're quite concerned about the safety of people. Yeah, that's just aware of that, really. I don't
That
think
question
it's,
goes to,
It's noted, Councillor, thank you.
I will say that the lighting of the premises will remain on until the last person leaves. So we have a terminal time of normally 90 minutes after the pub closes, so it'll be on for a minimum. Yeah, I understood that, but I thought I'd just mention it in case. So.
okay, go to Councillor Wade.
Thank you, Jim. I've got a couple of questions, a few questions actually, very quickly. You mentioned that you have a large stock of public houses. Can you tell me how many of them are situated on the edge of small villages surrounded by houses? And how many of the pubs have a car park?
I mean, obviously, the majority of Wetherspoon pubs, as I've said, are in town and city centres, but some are in what I would call residential areas, which are surrounded by residential properties.
Flats and things in the town?
Well, no, not necessarily. We have got pubs in smaller suburban towns on the edge of those towns, which are surrounded by residential property. A number of which have car parks and which will operate in a very similar way, in a similar setting to this one. And you're quite right. We do have pubs in town and city centres underneath flats. Where residents are literally on top of us, and we do maintain good relationships and operate those premises in a responsible manner to the extent that if we do get any concerns or objections, then we deal with them very, very quickly. So we are used to dealing and running premises very close to residential properties.
You mentioned in your case about the hours. And the pub might shut early or so forth. Can you clarify 100% the situation with the licence in regards to hours that the panel is going to decide on today? Because it wasn't very clear to me what you're actually saying. Oh, I didn't get 100%. You're going for the later hours, or are you asking the licensing panel to reduce the hours on the original licence you've applied for? I want to get what the actual closing time of Thursday, Saturday, and Friday.
Well, the original licence isn't subject to this hearing. The original licence.
No, I'm talking about the licence you're applying for.
It's separately. But what I have done is, you'll know, I think it's on page 34 of the agenda papers, sets out the hours for the sale of alcohol. As they're applied for, it's 8 o'clock to midnight, midnight, Sunday to Wednesday, and 8 o'clock until 1 a.m. Thursday, Friday and Saturday. So the amendment that I've, well, not proposed, but I have committed to, is that the terminal hours sought will be midnight, 7 days a week, which is as per the existing licence.
And that is what you're applying for today?
Yes, Councillor,
Okay,
confirm that's the case.
Okay, we'll go to the other objectors now. Do you have any? Do any of you have any questions you'd like to raise? I'll go to Mr. I'm sorry, I'm going to Mr.
Yeah, Nick Endersby. I live at May Cottage on Bewley Road, which is directly across from the Heath. We can see it from our windows, and we're aware of noise and unfortunately in the past cooking smells from the place. I've got 3 or 4 questions, if I may.
3 or 4 questions is fine.
Do you intend to put any door security on the premises at any time?
Our approach to door supervisors is by way of risk assessment. So we'll assess peak nights, whether or not they're needed or not. If there's any, not so much here, I wouldn't have thought, but say in a town or city centre, if there is like a football match or a sporting event or a demonstration or something of that nature. So that's done in conjunction with the pub manager and Mr. Hescott. And if there's a need identified to have door supervisors on duty, then they would be applied. I'll ask Mr. Hescott to clarify if there's any intention from the outset here just to have them on opening, which we sometimes do.
Yeah, previously doing the new opening in Whiteley, we had door supervisors for the first 1 week to 2 weeks. After the first week, we really determine where we are at with those door supervisors. They come obviously at a great cost, but they do supply us with great security sometimes. So we have got door security from 6 p.m. till our closing time from the Tuesday the 8th. That's for the first week, and then we'll review that after that week to see if it's deemed that we need it for the following week.
Okay. What I would say in sort of premises of this type is that it would be unusual to employ door supervisors on an ongoing basis, but if there is a need, we will do so. We don't have any hesitation in doing that. And really the reason to have door supervisors from the outset is that the first few weeks that a pub opens, Chair, is quite important because it sort of sets the bar in terms of behaviour, in terms of what people who use the pub can expect to be treated like in terms of enforcement of good behaviour, and door supervisors help that for the first couple of weeks. So hopefully that answers the question regarding door supervisors.
Next question.
Yes, thank you. You mentioned there's no regulated entertainment intended or provided. Does that include screening of sporting events, football matches, rugby matches, etc.?
We will have small screen televisions in the pub, in common with all our pubs. There won't be any big screens. We don't have Sky Sports, apart from in a handful of pubs. We won't have it here. So the sporting events will be limited to what appears on terrestrial television. But generally speaking, Wetherspoons are not associated as a go-to venue to watch sports. We don't have big drop-down screens. We don't market it as such. It's more for regulars that are in there and want to see the game. Then we've got televisions and can show them the game, but it's not a major part of our trade at all.
I believe there was numerous screens in the previous site under Whitbread. We only have one television screen in the pub at this moment in time.
Okay, thank you very much. A question around a rumour that's circulating. Is there any intention to reduce the size of the car park to increase the garden area?
No intentions, no.
Okay. There were several concerns about the increased possible noise if that was the case.
I think if you hopefully you'll have maybe seen what we're doing and know. I mean that work would have been done by now. I mean we are intending to open next Tuesday, so that work would have been done, and I think what we have done, speaking to the architect this morning when I visited the pub, is cut back some of the hedges and some of the overgrown vegetation, which I think has actually facilitated more car parking spaces than there was previously. So there's no intention to do that. There is a terrace area to the front of the pub, a small garden to the side, which is ample for our needs.
And a final question: do you have any plans to direct people to other parking areas if your car park becomes full?
No, I hadn't thought about that, and I wouldn't envisage pushing them to another parking area. I think we've got ample parking there. 35 to 40 spaces should be more than sufficient, especially when we're looking to supply the local community. I appreciate we will have people coming further afield, going down to Calshot, Leap Beach, into Bewley, etc. But I'd like to think we've got ample parking on site for all our customers.
Happy to take any feedback as to what you might think appropriate in respect to use your local knowledge in that regard.
Yeah, we're just concerned, as you're probably aware, we've recently had car parking fees introduced into forest car parks. So that has led to an increase in off-forest parking. There's a forest lay-by near the pedestrian crossing that has recently become completely overflowed and bunged up with parking. And the concern is that if that's full, your car park is full, that would lead to on-road parking where it's already very busy and There was a recent application for it.
I'll take that as the question and allow that to come up in the summary.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
it's and we're happy to engage with the community in that regard. Hopefully, it's not a problem, but there are some problems that we just need to deal with as and when issues sort of develop. I mean, one tries to foresee as much as one can, but what's important, I think, is if there is an issue with that regard, we react quickly to it and find some parking that, if customers do ask for it, we can direct them to it, which isn't going to interfere with our local neighbours or cause disturbance to them. But it's a good
I
question.
think Mr. Ender was raising a valid concern there, because a number of licensed premises across the forest are actually now introducing controlled parking because of the movement onto. So just a point of interest for you there, that it is a valid concern since the Forestry Commission decided to charge across the forest. A popular decision, of course.
Problem solved in one place does tend to push the problem somewhere else.
So I'm sure your area manager is aware of the press on parking.
Just one more question, if I may.
Yes, one more.
Just following on from Councillor Osborne's question about the contact address. Is that going to be a number that, if there are issues late at night, that we can phone and get an immediate response to?
Yes, of course. We'll give you the pub's telephone number, and normally there will be a duty manager there every 7 nights a week. They'll be prompt to answer the phone. And other occasions, we've set up a voicemail service as well, and it would flash. The manager can see it if they're a bit busy at the time and can't answer the phone. So there is those means. And like I said, we'll supply you with the pub's email address as well. I'll have that on a regular basis with the pub manager on our weekly visits.
The concern is, people are leaving the pub, making a noise. We want to report it and get it shut down quickly. There's children who need to go to school the next morning. There's people who go to work the next morning. We don't want disturbed night's sleep.
Understandable.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ensley. Mr. and Mrs. Clifford, any questions?
Yeah, most of my questions have actually been brought up. Just one question: the seating in the garden, will that be open right the way till closing time?
I was having discussions with Mr. Hescott with regard to that. I think that's something that we just need to assess. Appreciate that you are in quite close proximity. I think you're the next house down from Heathfield. I think we've tried to mitigate any potential impact by leaving the hedge and the trees in place in respect of your garden to act as a noise buffer and privacy. But I think we obviously don't want to operate that garden to an extent that is going to disturb our neighbours.
Well, but most of the bars in Hive actually bring people in after about 10 o'clock.
Yes, I think we'll make an assessment on that, but we won't be operating that garden to an extent that it's going to cause disturbance to our neighbours. I'm conscious as well that some of the rooms in Heathfield do literally overlook even to a greater extent than your property. So that's something we are conscious of, and I'm having discussions with Mr. Hescott and the pub manager as to what's an appropriate time. But certainly bringing in people beforehand is something that we'll be certainly contemplating and considering.
It'll be mostly the cars leaving as well for us, because we're right over the car park.
Well, hopefully, as I explained, we wouldn't anticipate the pub being at peak capacity at closing time, and the majority of people will have left earlier than that at a time which isn't going to cause disturbance. But we will have signage in the car park to ask people to bear in mind our neighbours and leave the area quietly. And it is something that we can monitor. For example, if there is a group of customers congregating in the car park, then we'd expect the pub management to politely ask them to move on and leave. But that's something which we would need to actively manage.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. The councillor's turn now. I'm going to go first. One or two questions. You've made a distinct policy of no regulated entertainment. That's across the chain, I believe.
We do operate probably about 40 or so pubs, mainly in sort of larger towns and cities, which do have a music offer later on in the evenings. But that's the minority. We've not all the new pubs that we develop now really are without any entertainment, and this will be the same. There's no need to have entertainment in this pub. It's predominantly a dining local pub, so music really would be something we wouldn't ever contemplate there. And there's no provision on the licence yet, unlike the current licence.
Thank you. I'm sure a lot of people prefer the quiet pub anyway. You've put challenge 21 in your submission. A lot of our pubs operate challenge 25, which is something I prefer because it gives you an extra layer. Have you got any problem with challenge 25?
No objection to challenge 25. I think increasingly, Chair, that's becoming the standard. So more than happy to.
It just gives staff an extra layer because 21 and 18 are closer. 25, if they look under 25, they may be 18, but they're more likely to be of the right age.
I do find that I operate 12 different premises as well, but a lot of the pubs will just operate challenge 25 off their own backs because, like you said, it does give that extra layer. But I have no objections if that's your wish.
Okay, on the challenge system, is that a till entry system that you've challenged?
Yes, it is. It all gets digitally logged, and that can be monitored by the on-site management team to see how many they've done. There's, I think we've got about, I think it's 12 different criteria now. So whether that's drunk, no ID, etc., then we've got quite a lot of that on our till system. That'll be digitally entered and digitally logged and kept forever.
A printout which can be obtained by the police to check those logs in the normal way.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, and obviously staff diligently trained when they commence working for you in that respect of incident reporting.
Yes, so they're diligently trained in Challenge 21 and Challenge 25. They also have 6-month refreshers that come around every single year to refresh their memory. That's e-learning that they do, and that's compulsory, and they are paid to do that e-learning as well. So it does refresh their memory on Challenge 25, and don't do drunk as well within the same module.
Okay, thank you. In terms of your ethos is families and family dining, etc. How do you manage family drinking? You're aware of the different parts of the Licensing Act that allow younger members of the family to drink under 18 under certain provisions. How do you manage that in a practical way?
We don't allow that, Chair. You cannot consume alcohol if you are under 18 in our pubs, irrespective of whether you're eating with adults. We do get criticised for that, but it's simply too hard to manage and draw the distinction. So it's 18 and over only in terms of alcoholic drinks.
So basically, I can't give my 16-year-old granddaughter a drink on her birthday, even though legally she could do.
No. You certainly couldn't. Both you and her would get into trouble, as would we. But no, we don't allow that. As I say, it's too difficult to draw the distinction.
Probably a reason to come to Wetherspoons then, because I'm not going to give her a drink.
I'm pleased to hear.
Okay, and lastly from me, some of the concerns raised in the numerous objections were around younger drinkers who may not necessarily want to come in and partake of food. How do you manage that situation? Because obviously you are a licensed premises as well.
Yes, of course, and we're open to all demographics. It's the younger community, we fully expect them to be coming in, and that's down to having a robust management team. Alex has been the pub manager. He's been in Lymington for the past 3 years. Worked in Southampton city centre and around Hampshire. He's been a very good, what we would call grade 4. Got his opportunity in Lymington. There was a younger clientele in Lymington from time to time, and he deals with that very well. And again, it's being robust. And making sure that we treat them fairly, but at the same time they need to have the respect for the pub, our residents, and everyone else. And if that's not the case, then we will just have to ask them to leave.
Okay, thank you. I'll move to my colleagues now. Councillor Grass.
I understand you're going to show some sport on televisions. Do you expect any noise from that could affect anyone in the vicinity?
We wouldn't, Councillor. It's just one small television. There's no additional amplification. I don't know whether you'll note from the plans, it's a small but important detail, but on each of the doors, the door to the outside garden area and the door to the main premises are lobbied, so that there wouldn't be sound escape, but it's literally a television, and we find, generally speaking, that the majority of people come to our pubs not to watch sport, so it would really only be providing volume enough for people in the immediate vicinity to hear it. So we wouldn't anticipate that being a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think most of my concerns and questions were relating to the late hours, which you've addressed there. On page 19, Annex 3, it deals with the operating schedule. Is there any intention to adopt the operating schedule? I realise that a lot of it doesn't apply now, because it's regarding music and entertainment, but also in section 4 it mentions noise emanating from the premises. If it shouldn't go outside the boundary.
We haven't replicated that on the existing on the new premises licence application for the reasons really that you've suggested, in that really they are conditions relating to sort of music, etc. We are, of course, in a position where we need to abide with all environmental health regulations in respect of noise, not causing statutory nuisance, etc. So the absence of conditions like that on the premises licence doesn't mean that we won't adhere to them. But we've not replicated those conditions because they are really more suitable to music premises, and as you'll know, Councillor, there's not been any adverse response to the application from the EHA.
No, my query was, I know a lot of it relates to audible music and things, but it's any noise emanating as well. Yes. So, you know, in the summer, the windows wide open at midnight could call.
I think that condition is as it's phrased there. If you're looking at condition 3, inaudibility of any noise is impossible to comply with. I mean, the key criteria is whether that noise is causing a nuisance and disturbance, and obviously there are long-standing regulations in place under the Environmental Protection Act, which means that noise can't cause a nuisance. So wouldn't want to volunteer that condition. I think it is too onerous to be complied with.
Okay, thank you.
Just to go back to that, would you, accepting that we would need to remove all the regulated entertainment entries on that section, would you accept a general term that you will be aware of, something to this effect, you will be aware of noise emanating from the premises and work with residents to...
Absolutely, Chair, if that's a condition that you feel appropriate, it's a sort of expression of intent which, you know, we've expressed today, so happy to see that.
I would have thought that works with your company ethos anyway. Indeed. Because I think you pride yourself as a company on having good relations with your neighbours, etc. I just think a short, simple phrase, I can see the licensing manager writing at the moment, a short, simple phrase to say that you will strive to manage noise and that in an effective way. And I know you've already mentioned that you have a good neighbour policy and you ask people to quiet them down, so it would fit into that anyway.
Indeed, no.
I don't think it would be too restrictive to the licence to add a phrase to that effect.
Indeed, thank you, Chair.
Okay. No further questions from myself or the councillors in line to be jumping in on the point raised by Councillor Linford. I'm going to invite the objectors to speak now. Starting, you want me to go to Councillor Wade? Hand signals are always a good thing in these meetings. Councillor Wade.
Thank you. Let me start off by saying I have no objection to Wetherspoons taking over that site. Okay, let's be quite clear. But this site is in a different position to many of your premises, and I want to elaborate because that produces certain issues that actually need to be mitigated in the licence. Because if it's not mitigated in the licence, there is no control over these in the future. And we don't want loads of complaints and have to come back to the panel, do we? So if we get it right from the very beginning, then there won't be a problem later on. So I'm going to go through a range of issues that need to be clear and transparent about the location of this public house. Now, the waterside is a peninsula. We have Sampton Water on one side, Hythe and Dibden in the middle, the A326 and the National Park on the other side. This public house is on the edge of the community. It's surrounded by housing, not commercial premises, as many of your sites are in towns, and I've been to a few, so I know that is the case. There's no public transport at night, none at all. So the only way people can visit the establishment is on foot or in a car. The noise, and the majority of people, let's say, are going to come on foot locally, because here's a little difference. Hythe and Dibden's public houses do not empty at 10 o'clock, as many do in many other communities. They are quite well used. Wetherspoons here will be like the proverbial honeypot from people from all over the waterside, because your business model is very popular with the young and the not so young. Know that, because it is. And there's no doubt about that. It will be a business success from that respect, which is good, but also is bad. You might be tempted to push the boundaries a little bit. So therefore, it's really important that we get clear boundaries in place. Now, because there's no public transport and a large amount of people will be walking, there will produce noise, and there will be times when antisocial behaviour because of too much consumption of alcohol will take place. And it's no good to say it doesn't happen, because it does. It happens in pubs all over the country. But the location of this is such. The walking routes will be down Bewley Road, through the centre of Dibden Purlieu, past more houses and other properties, or they will be along Roman Road South, or on Roman Road North. We don't have any police in Hythe, because the bit I'm focusing on at the moment is public nuisance and criminal behaviour, potential criminal behaviour. There aren't any police in Hythe and Dibden. We have one beat officer who works shifts, and with a couple of other officers for the whole waterside. So there's not a lot of instant support on call. It will require a police car coming from Southampton or possibly Lyndhurst. So let's be quite clear on that issue. Would you want your children woken up in the middle of the night by disturbance outside your property as people are leaving the pub? I don't think you would you? Unlike a city or a town, they said there's no public transport, but there's a car park. And so there's a lot of potential there for people to drive to the pub. It's not like the one in town where you can walk or get a bus. You've got to drive. And therefore, there is the potential there for people having more than they should to drink and drive. And while there's locations of public houses with public transport and with, in a city or a town where people can walk home, that's not such of an issue. Here, because of its location, it is. And it's something that you need to consider. How will you ensure that we are not putting, that you are not putting drunk drivers on the road? Because that is an important issue. And it's not unique to this site. It's in many forest pubs have to think about that, because protection of our citizens' public is key. Public safety. Due to the location and lack of public transport, putting drink drivers is one issue. But walking to a public house, even with your reduced hours, if they go down Roman Road South, there's a pavement on one side of the road and poor lighting, but it's a very straight road. And motorists can get on Roman Road South and they can, sadly, faster than the speed limit. And if you've got pedestrians who are walking back, because that will be a main route to Butts Ash, Roman Road South. That's the way people will go. That's an issue. That's a safety issue. But if you're going to be coming from Dibden to this pub, going down Roman Road North, that's even worse. There's no pavement and no lighting. That's a big issue, because that's not safe for people leaving your premises. And I'm mentioning these things, Chairman and the panel, so that we put the perspective around the late night drinking on this location. Walking around Bewley Road, which is the main route through Dibden Purlieu, you can come across right through the centre of the community. Your patrons are more likely to come across other people with more traffic. And looking at this from a parent's perspective, would you want your son or daughter to leave that public house at 12:30, walk down an unlit road where anybody could be about? I don't think so. So the point I'm trying to make, yes, your model works very well and it will be popular. It will be popular because there isn't a lot on the waterside. You know, there is nowhere for younger people, and you will attract a lot of young patrons, no doubt about that at all, because there's 20-odd thousand people live in Hythe and Dibden, and there's a significant number of young people, and they'll be attracted to there, and you will need to deal with that. And I know, don't doubt, your organisation has got a lot of experience with that. I am concerned that even if you go to the existing hours, people will come out at 12:30, is that right? It finishes on 3 of the days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think that's correct, which I still think is a bit late, actually. So what I would like to see in the licence is things to deal with potential public safety issues that we'll have at this site that are unique to one in a town. The one in Lymington doesn't have this problem because there's buses and people can walk, and it's surrounded by commercial properties. There's a church next to it as well, if I remember. So, but this one isn't. It's got houses. Next to it is Heathlands, which is elderly people's flats. And you walk down past Heathlands, going down Bewley Road, you go past the doctors, the dentists, and another section of old people's flats. On the other side of the road are all houses. Roman Road, north and south, are quiet houses with a little lighting. So these are issues that make too much consumption of alcohol a public safety issue, not just for residents, but for the individuals themselves. So I would like to, I just want to see something in the licence to mitigate the environmental factors that put in late hours in a pub like this. The Heath Hotel never was open late. In fact, it was very poorly run, to be honest. So that's why you bring Wetherspoons in. It's probably going to be very popular. But it never was open later than 10:30, 11 a push. It was never open late, so this wasn't quite the issue. So that's why. And if we don't have it built into the licence now, mitigation and control of the hours, we'll end up coming back here because there will be problems because of the location and the environment. And we have a responsibility on behalf of local residents to try and avoid that happening. And if Wetherspoons want to be good neighbours with the local residents, you will perhaps take a step back and look at how can we work with the district council to put something in the licence that we are comfortable with to deal with this. Because if you do, it's a win-win.
Thank you, Councillor Wade.
We will be back.
Before we go to the applicant, I just want to remind everybody that we can only condition in terms of the Licensing Act. And there's a high probability, subject to any legal advice that we get, that some of the issues you've raised would not be subject to the Licensing Act. And that would be a matter for other discussions. But I'll go to the applicant
Can
now.
I just come back on that point, Chairman?
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. I take your point about that. I'm raising these issues for Wetherspoons to be good neighbours to this, to residents.
And that's precisely why I let you raise the issues, so that everybody can be aware of those issues, which I'm sure we would all take account of. But it is a matter that we can only condition according to the terms of the licence. Some of those issues that you've raised, I believe, have been covered by case stated and etc. Responsibility away from the premises is a challenging for a licensing team and the licensees to manage. But you validly raised the points within the committee, and to take a point, and I'll go to the...
Just before you do, one last point. And the input of all that is, by finishing half an hour earlier, you would reduce the impact of some of those issues. That's what I was getting to.
To the applicant now. That's absolutely fine. That's why I intervened there, because there was lots of points raised there, and subject to the Licensing Act, which will be part of our deliberations, we'll see how they can be managed. So, Osborne.
Thank you, Chairman. I did meet up with Malcolm on the way, to travel here, and realised that we'd almost mirrored each other's ideas and the comments we wanted to make. So I'm not going to bore you all with another lot. I was going to say that I'm here to request the closing time was changed to midnight, 12. 1 p.m. is too late for this village. I'm really glad that Wetherspoons, with substantial investment, has come to this building. It's a landmark in our village. It's like the entrance to the village. The negative responses about the late opening are many, as you know, and I think we're all worried because once it's granted, it is difficult to get it changed. I think the majority of residents are looking forward to having a pub and restaurant that they can walk to. My comments that you may or may not be interested in were a lot of dog walkers, actually, that found out that the policy is no dogs anywhere in there. And I think the chairman has explained to you our problem with the forest car parks now being charged for, that a lot of people do or did park in there, go for a walk, come back for lunch. So that's something to just bring to your notice. We do live opposite the New Forest. The roads, as Malcolm's elaborated on, are quite dangerous for someone that might be, drunk or had too many drinks to be reasonable. We've got to be aware that they've decided to build a lot of residential houses at that end of the village with older people, but also bear in mind that there are a lot of people that work in the shift work, refinery, people with children. If we are going to be woke up, it is quite horrible, actually. We have had, over the years, various things or reasons that people have come in through our village going back to other areas and, wake you up, and it's there's nothing you can do. No one's interested. It's not like you can call the police. I live nearby in a very narrow, poorly lit road, and the lights do go off at midnight. It would be dangerous and unpopular to have late night extra traffic and walkers, or dangerous rather than unpopular. And we do need to be aware that other businesses do have earlier closing times. As a parent and elected councillor, I feel that I would worry about my adult children walking on these roads at the moment, and so the late night, the lights going off, the lack of transport, I also copy.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. To the residents now as objectors, Mr Endersby, you wish to make a statement?
Thank you, Chairman. Notwithstanding the current licence that was in place for the Heath, I really don't see any justification for a drinking licence until 12:30 in this particular area. It is a quiet village. As Councillor Osborne says, most of the other licensed premises close at what's considered normal licensing time, I think at 11 o'clock. I understand there was one premises in the Hive that had extended licensing hours, and due to the trouble that occurred at that premises, their licence was curtailed fairly recently. So just make the point, I and most of the other residents really don't see the justification for a 12:30 opening of the pub. There won't be food served at that time, it will be mostly alcohol. Following on from Councillor Wade's point of view, the fact that all the other licensed premises close at 11 o'clock, there will be a considerable number of people, particularly at weekends, but also during the week, who will have been to those premises. They will have had a fair share of alcohol, and someone, as always happens, says, let's go to the Heath because that's still open. So it won't just be people leaving the Heath late at night, potentially making a noise and disturbance. It will be people going to the Heath after 11 o'clock. So there'll be a double hit of noise, particularly amongst the younger members of the community. We already suffer with that to a degree. Living on the edge of the forest on the route back from Dibden Enclosure, there's a long-standing tradition, well, long-standing since I've been in the area, that at the end of school terms, exam results days and various other party nights, the local kids, mostly underage, manage to get hold of alcohol some way or another, all head over to Deadman's Hill in the enclosure, drink considerable amounts, come back, leave a mess on the forest, that's by the by. But there's always bottles, cans and whatever over there. But they, on their way back home, which is often 12:30, 1 o'clock, we are frequently disturbed by the noise they make and the mess they make on the way back. It's particularly an issue in the recent hot summer where everyone has to have their windows open because it's been so hot and humid, so the noise is even more pronounced. Which also leads on to the concern about the garden area being used after pub opening hours. That is a real concern. You probably won't hit the effect of it at its fullest at this time of the year going into the winter, but next May, when the nights get longer and warmer, there will be considerable noise, and in the middle of the night, as we all know, sound really carries. So, it may be on the other side of the building, but I'm sure halfway down Beauty Road, we'll still be able to hear people talking and laughing and joking and bottles clanking, etc. I mentioned earlier about the parking concern. There was a recent application for change of use of premises or a guest house. There were many concerns raised on that application around parking. Bewley Road is very tight for parking. There are hidden entrances. One side of Bewley Road is nearly always full of parked cars, which is very restrictive for passing and parking, and the side roads equally get very busy for parking. So I can see there being issues around that. So hopefully something can be done to manage that.
Thank you, Mr. Enderby. Mr. Connor, I'm assuming you're going to deal with these issues under the summary, and you appreciate I'm allowing some latitude because obviously there's issues that are being raised which are outside the evidence base that we can consider. But I think it's important that the local people have the opportunity to raise those issues. I was just waiting for a pause there. Mr. Clifford.
Well, all I'd like to say is ditto our neighbour and ditto the councillors.
I don't want to exclude Mrs. Clifford. You could ditto as well. I've got no questions to ask of any of the objectors. Do either of my colleagues have any?
No.
In which case, Mr. Connor, I'm going to go to you first from the applicants to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. First thing I want to say is, whilst not wanting in any way to disregard or disrespect the opinions of our neighbours, they live in the area and I do not, and nor does Mr. Hescott. But the circumstances which are described are not ones that I really recognise from the opening of a Wetherspoon pub. I've worked for the company and made these applications for nearly 18 years now for new pubs. And I particularly remember being in this very chamber a number of years ago when we made the application for the new premises licence at Lymington, where I think the chamber was essentially full. I don't know whether you may recall, I can't recall whether you were sitting.
Some of us remember, yes.
Indeed, and every site is of course different, but a lot of the concerns expressed there in terms of noise, antisocial behaviour, etc., never came to pass, and we've operated very well with our neighbours, and as I say, it's a different area, but hopefully that can give some reassurance that what we say in terms of how we operate our premises isn't just words, it is practice as well. In terms of the general points, Councillor Wade made a number of specific points with regard to the need to sort of mitigate the effects of the premises by putting premises licence conditions in place. Obviously, the legal advice will be that conditions have to be both necessary and proportionate. And there isn't any evidence before you as to the necessity of these conditions. Certainly they are concerns which are validly raised and ones which are fully noted by the company. There is the overriding licensing objectives of the prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public nuisance, and they of course need to be adhered to at all times, and you have heard how they will be addressed and promoted by Wetherspoon once they start operating this premises. Many of our premises are adjacent to residential property. Give some reassurance to Councillor Wade. They may not be in a sort of village environment such as this, although some are, but much of that residential property is in much greater concentration than here, whether they be flats, terraced housing, etc., in suburban and semi-suburban areas. So it's not an unusual premises for us. We know how to operate our premises in respect of our neighbours. Obviously, it's a well-established licensed premises, Chair. It's been there 100 years, and we can't change its location, though, you know, the concerns about access and lighting are noted. And you quite rightly pointed out, Chair, that it is difficult for licensing committees and operators of licensed premises to manage customers away from the premises, and to a certain extent they do have to take responsibility for themselves, both in terms of getting home safely and legally, whether driving or on foot. But I would reiterate the point that how customers are managed on premises does have a big impact on how they behave opposite, and that's something that has always been our approach, whether that's preventing alcohol being sold to under 18s, whether that's preventing people from drinking to excess. So hopefully that will give some reassurance. There's been issues raised as to the garden area. There wasn't a condition on the previous licence as to the operation of that garden stopping before a certain time. I appreciate that was mitigated by the fact that the Heath Hotel seemed to have closed earlier. We don't want that garden to cause a nuisance, but I think what we would like to do is just have the flexibility of seeing what is an appropriate time to operate up to. And if it's clear that if it needs to close at 10 or if it needs to close at 11, then, you know, we're not going to be operating to the extent that we're causing issues to particularly Heathfield and also to Mr and Mrs Clifford, who are our most immediate neighbours. In respect of parking, the concerns of Mr Endersby are noted, and I think that's probably a task for us to take on board before we open next week, to identify where appropriate parking might be if that car park is full, to advise customers, should they ask us, and we'll certainly undertake that. And if there's a necessity for us to liaise with you, Councillor Wade, on that particular point, we will do so. So I'd ask the application to be granted as applied for, Chair, subject to the amended hours, which now match the licence. It's in many ways a better licence in that we can't suddenly decide to turn music on, turn it into a disco. There'll be no music. It will operate as a traditional Wetherspoons, and I am certain that we can operate in harmony with our neighbours at a local facility and make the premises commercially successful to everybody's benefit. So thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Now turn to the objectors, and this is sometimes the most difficult part to explain in terms of procedure. You've already made your statements. This is a summary now. You have an opportunity to make a final summary. Normally means a short statement of anything you feel that you need to still say without going into too much length. So I'll go to Councillor Wade first.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very pleased to see that you are going to take on board some of the issues we've raised. I don't think you really can compare the Heath with Lymington, because that is in the high street of a town surrounded by commercial properties, and you have a graveyard next to it, and obviously occupants of that don't cause a problem. No. The issues that is really important is the character of our community. Now, we don't want anything to change the peaceful life that our residents have at the moment, because the Heath doesn't open very late. My point about shutting at 12 would, I think, mitigate a lot of the potential issues that we'd have, because if someone's in Hythe and they've got to walk all the way up to Dibden Purley, they're not going to do it, are they? Because it'll be closed by the time they get there. So the idea, the very valid point that was made, because so many of our public houses close early, that will attract, and which it will, and I'm sure you will accept that, more trade later on, especially from some of our younger residents. The key to this, as I said at the very beginning, I don't object to Wetherspoons taking it over, and I think it will be it'll be a lot of advantages in that. But for it to be a win-win scenario, we need to make sure that you are a good neighbour to the residents. And we need to make sure there is a communication system whereby if there's an issue, it can be addressed outside their licence with your good selves. Because if we don't have that communication issue, we will end up here back again with a problem. Because many years ago, I actually sat on the panel. So I have experienced with previous public houses when there's been problems. So I understand how this works. So if there's a good communication link and mitigation by yourselves with residents, local councillors, whatever is the most appropriate, then we can avoid problems in the future. But I would genuinely think about the closing time. 12 at midnight as a shutting is better than half. Because if you could do that, it would mitigate some of the potential concerns that residents would have. And that would show a willingness to really want to work with the community, which I think will be a win-win all round. It will be good for the trade of your establishment, and certainly good for the residents. Because we want to live and work together in harmony, not in aggravation, if you pardon the expression. So I would suggest that as a very good final adjustment to that. Finish at 12, so people are out at 12, then that will reduce that concerns about late night antisocial behaviour. It's the best we'll probably get. Right, so I would put that across as an option. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Wade. That was almost a summary. Councillor Osborne.
Yes, so to reiterate, we welcome you to the village. We're glad you're coming, and just hope we can work with you. We have got a relationship with our other pubs, and hope that'll be the same with yourselves. Thank you for today.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Osborne. A real summary. On to our residents now. Mr. Endersby.
I appreciate that you're opening the pub or keeping the pub going. It is a great facility for the village. I hope it gets well used. But I also appreciate that you are taking the opportunity to take on the existing licensing hours. Whereas if you were making a new application, you're probably more in line with Lymington and the other pubs in the area. Which, you know, based on a Google search yesterday, you have many pubs, Lymington, Southampton, in the surrounding area, where your closing hours are 11 o'clock at night. I really don't see why that can't be applied here, to be honest. Thank you.
Mr. Clifford.
Yeah, we're really glad Wetherspoons is moved in. The other place was run down. We couldn't get anything done. The hedges are growing out of going wild. But people keep coming up to us and saying, "Uh-oh, you've got a Wetherspoon next to you. Ooh, bad luck." So we're just hoping that that's wrong. That's it. Oh, sorry, yeah.
We must remember equality. Okay, thank you, everyone. We're at the end of the hearing now. Can I just check that everybody feels they've had the opportunity to express their views as they wish to express their views? Councillor?
Thank you, Chairman. Just one question for you. I've been asked, what is the bird on the sign outside the heath?
Damn, I knew there'd be a question I couldn't answer. Chris?
I can't answer it either.
I will investigate and come back to everybody.
Earlier, trying to assess what bird it actually was, and we spoke to the architect, and he was like, "I'll find out for you." We'll find out.
We need to know in our area.
Feedback on that.
I've got to point out that that's not a matter for the Licensing Act, but councillor had to ask that one question, didn't they? So the question was from me: are you all satisfied that I've given you ample opportunity to express your views and have been dealt with fairly? I would remind everybody that we'll be making our decisions based upon the evidence that pertains to the Licensing Act and the licensing objectives, but also a reminder that whatever the outcome of this hearing, any licensed premises is always subject to scrutiny by the statutory agencies, by its local residents. And if there's any perceived breach of any of their licensing conditions, it's always possible to contact the licensing team in New Forest and for consideration for reviews, etc. And I think that's always important to remember. Sometimes the evidence threshold, even though there might be common sense, Malcolm, the licensing evidence threshold is difficult to understand. But we always like to reassure our residents that we keep an eye on everybody and enable the proper scrutiny of all licensed premises. Not in any way particular to Wetherspoons here at all. So that's not directed at you as an individual operator. So we will be taking all that into account, the evidence we've received, and we will give you our decision within 5 working days. We couldn't accommodate you for 5 days anyway.